Hey, Brad, I'm going to jump in here. We got two questions really quickly. One from our guy, Doug. He's asking, this may be a further along in the draft. He said, does anybody believe that the Bengals are going to draft a punter? I'll go to Joe or Malik. Anybody want to take that?
I've got an answer. I think there's 4 draftable punters this year, so you don't have to. I don't think all 4 get drafted, and you can probably walk in and feel pretty confident and choose the Bengals as an undrafted free agent. Absolutely. That you got a good shot at that job.
Kid from Michigan State, number 1 in your mind?
It might be Turk from Oklahoma, but
really? Okay.
Yeah, I like the way Behringer from Michigan State developed. He had the lowest hang time during the season, but then when he showed up to the Senior Bowl and the Combine, he was completely different. Completely booming balls.
I think that if they don't draft one in the 7th round, I think there's definitely going to be somebody signed in college free agency, and if there's a punter out there in the veteran free agency period we're talking about, there's going to be competition. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be an unchallenged position at training camp at the punter position. There's going to be competition for sure. And competition breeds excellence of performance.
So I want to go to one more question, and I'll let you guys get back to your guys' discussion from our guy, Ty Kendall. He's asking, how likely do you think a Jonah Williams trade is? Evan, I'm going to go to you. Jonah Williams, what's your thoughts on a potential trade?
I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity here to try and pick up a 3rd or 4th round pick in this draft if they feel like there are still players on the board. The way there's stuff falling, whether it's Keely Ringo falling, I believe Adebawore is still on the board too, and DeJuan Jones also going. These guys all have their own concerns that are causing them to fall, and maybe the Bengals feel like that value is right. But the problem with that is you have to have another team that wants to trade for Jonah, that wants to give up this draft capital for a guy who's coming on an expiring contract. There's controversy about where a team might want him to play versus where he wants to play. So it's a little difficult to do that tango if only the Bengals are really interested in dancing. So someone I think, especially we know the aggressiveness or lack thereof of the Bengals when it comes to making those calls, generating those trades, I think someone will have to go out of their way. Maybe after a couple of these tackles fall off the board, maybe their phone starts ringing with one of these teams that starts to feel a little bit uncertain about their tackle situation.
And I agree with you. 3rd, 4th round, so it'll be the end of today and the beginning of tomorrow. After the 4th round, the Bengals are going to say, not enough value. So it's going to happen either the next few hours or the early stages of tomorrow's draft, maybe pre-draft in the early morning, or I don't think it'll happen.
Right. Looking at the board, hasn't been an offensive tackle pick since Matthew Bergeron 25 picks ago. So you can see there's definitely a cliff here. This is something we've talked about, that once these guys go, I'm not sure any teams are looking at these guys as year 1 starters, if it's Blake Freeland or a Tyler Steen or even further down the list. Nick Selderberry, you mentioned earlier, Evan. I think the Bengals need to be aware of that also. So if you like a DeJuan Jones, if you like a Blake Freeland, then sure, you can take a 3rd or 4th round pick and try and get one of those guys now to maybe develop or to compete for that right tackle spot. But if not, if you're looking at your draft board and you don't love the tackles that are available, man, you better come in and offer me something good to come get Jonah Williams.
Right. I mean, I'm going to be very interested in watching Cody Ford. He's going to be played. He primarily, they're putting him at that right tackle position. He's in that right tackle derby. And he played pretty darn well at Oklahoma. I mean, he's a big, powerful guy. And he's got some, the thing is now, guys like that, when you get the veteran free agents, they've got NFL experience. And I could tell you that, man, I didn't know what I didn't know when I was a rookie trying to figure out the National Football League. From year 1 to year 2, my experience was, I mean, your gains are exponential because now you start to figure it out. At least you start to understand what you're supposed to know. And anybody that's been around and has got, 15, 20 NFL starts or even 10 NFL starts and 30 NFL games, that guy's in a much better position to succeed in most cases, unless it's a freak like an Anthony Munoz type guy, than your normal kid coming out of college. There's no question about it.
But you don't get a lot of freaks. Those freaks don't come along. So Joe Bag of Donuts,
come on now,
Bengals fans, all they care about is Joe B. Is Joe B good? And if they're walking into the draft here on Friday night and say, how's my offensive line? Is Joe B going to be good? Is the offensive line that much better that Joe B is going to be that much safer this year?
I mean, looking at the offensive line, with Orlando Brown being signed at the left tackle position, they've got 3 guys now in the offensive line, Orlando Brown, Karras, and Kappa, that have won Super Bowls with different franchises. 3 of their 5 starting offensive linemen are Super Bowl champions with different teams. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs have 3 offensive linemen won a Super Bowl, but that was with the Chiefs last year. It is amazing to me that the Bengals have figured out how to get 3 different guys in their starting lineup that had that kind of success with different franchises. So they're bringing in different experiences, but the common denominator is they know what it takes to win the big enchilada. And that's huge. That's big. I think the Bengals offensive line is going to be pretty good. It's going to be interesting to watch that right tackle derby. But one thing they've got, this offensive line has some depth. Mm-hmm. They got guys the 8 offensive linemen that they start after deactivations on most Sundays is going to be upper crust in the league, I think. I really do.
Well, what you've always said, Dave, is because you were there, smartest guys on our team are on the offensive line. And if you're adding 3 guys who've gone to the bowl, won the bowl, you're adding so much wisdom to a team in the spot where you need that the most, in addition to the protection. Your intelligence level goes up on how you play the game.
And Brad, when you meet Orlando Brown and Ted Karras and Alex Kappa, you will be unbelievably impressed with not only their ability to play football, but their overall intelligence, football IQ, overall intelligence, leadership abilities. I mean, you'd like to have a leader at every position group on the football team. The offensive line has multiples. Ted Karras will say to you, man, I really rely on Alex Kappa. A lot of stuff Alex Kappa has talked about and the things that he's been exposed to. I mean, this locker room and culture is a much used word, and it can get kind of trite. But man, they have a darn good culture in that locker room. The jerk factor is minimal. It's almost goose egg. I mean, there are no guys that's like, can't stand this dude, man. Right. I mean, everybody.
You really got to like each other if you're going to win.
No absolutely. Yeah. No question.
So a lot of people are asking about DJ Turner, and I want to get, imagine you guys are the Bengals head coach and the coaching staff. Year 1, what can Bengals fans expect out of DJ Turner year 1?
Him backing up, more than likely. If Chidobe Awuzie is back and healthy, you have your 3 starters with him, Cam Taylor-Britt on the other side on the boundary, and Mike Hilton in the slot. But you get to that 4th corner. How many years in a row now have they gotten to the 4th corner? Eli Apple was never expected to start the last 2 years.
Right.
He started and played the majority of the snaps the past 2 seasons. You're going to get to the 4th corner at some point. He's going to play, and I like Sidney Jones who they brought in as well.
Oh, yeah.
And don't dismiss the relationship that Lou Anarumo and Eli Apple have. Mm-hmm. Eli Apple may be signed in that last veteran free agency period that I'm talking about. And like we said earlier, every rookie is going to have a role, not necessarily a starting role, but a kid like this, like Turner, he'll be able to do multiple things for Lou Anarumo. He'll be able to play in the slot. He'll be able to play outside. I mean, he's going to give position versatility as well. If you can't play more than one position, Lou Anarumo wants no part of you.
They had to play Dex Hill at a game at outside corner.
Absolutely.
You don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, so. He learned some lessons, man. It didn't go well.
It's a different game out there.
He learned some lessons. There's no doubt about that. No doubt.
Tyler Steen off the board just now, guys. We talked about him.
Yep. So we have some people asking about the tight end position right now. There's a lot of great tight ends. Darnell Washington still on the boards. Josh Wiley from Cincinnati still on the board. What can you guys tell Bengals fans about tight ends right now?
I'd be for Josh Wiley. I think Josh Wiley would be a decent selection. I'm not saying in the 3rd round. I'm saying later.
Right.
I'm saying 4th round on. I'm not saying a 3rd round pick with Wiley. But the problem with Washington is you got a big bodied tight end that's got knee problems. I mean, that's every kind of color flag you can think of.
Yeah.
Red, everything else.
That's enough. Yeah.
So there's 2 guys I would take in the 3rd round and be happy with. Tucker Kraft, as he keeps falling.
Yes.
I mean, he's a small school guy. You're seeing him blocking a lot of players that aren't going to play in the league, right? So, it's hard to get a full grasp of these guys when they're coming from FCS level football. But, and I'm going to say it again, another small school guy, Zach Kuntz. When you're 6'7", in the 100th percentile of athletes tested, looks like Mike Gesicki, runs like a deer, and he would be a big slot option for them. Those are only 2 I take in the 3rd round. When I saw Brenton Strange go off the clock a little bit ago, I thought, man, we're really starting to reach for these tight ends, and I think it's happening.
Your boy is 6'7", a red zone target. It's the Empire State Building. I mean, Joe Burrow would be like, "Where's my skyscraper?" Oh, there he is. I mean, that red zone value on a guy with that third down, red zone value in the middle of the football field. It's like, man, that's a big radio tower right there. Easy to locate this dude.
All right, you've run through a lot. Is there anything in the offensive backfield that this team helps themselves with in these later rounds?
Oh, yeah, running back. There's a guy that I love, and I got ridiculed a little bit for it. Keaton Mitchell. Big him. You want to tell me that you guys love Jahmyr Gibbs and things of that nature? Keaton Mitchell's a weapon. He's a weapon. He's a little bit on the smaller side, but he's a guy that adds another weapon to this offense, another piece, and juice to the running game as well. I think Keaton Mitchell, you check it down to him, he's gone. He's gone.
Dave's looking it up right now. Yes, it is Anthony Mitchell's son who played for the Bengals, if you
Okay.
remember. Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about a guy 5'8", 180, blazing speed out of ECU, and they've had some guys like Chris Johnson come out of there. He has that glider style to him. But, yeah, 180, you kind of when does that guy come off the board? Is that fifth round or later?
I think fifth round.
Yeah.
I think
Okay,
fifth,
guys,
yeah.
how about this one? My broadcast partner, Dan Horde, has seen Spears out of Tulane. And he talked about Spears. He goes, man, I would not mind seeing the Bengals select Spears. If Spears is there in the third round, is that too rich? I mean, he's projected third, fourth round guy. Is that a fair
I think
projection?
third is awesome for him if his medicals are clear. He had 2 ACLs in his history, and
Okay.
I think so. Teams are it's gonna be different for everyone, on their board.
Sure.
But yeah, Spears, you want to talk about a guy you can isolate and let him run routes. Look him at the Senior Bowl and how he got in and out of his breaks and cuts and just undressed linebackers in coverage, and he can block a little bit for a guy that's more of a finesse runner.
He's willing.
He is willing, and that's the first step.
Yep.
Are we at that spot medically where a guy who's done two ACLs that were good enough medically that you don't worry about a guy with 2 ACLs?
Yeah. I mean, LC Collins has had an ACL. He had ACL, PCL, MCL. He had the terrible triad. He ripped the whole thing up. But what they're doing now, they're putting these clips in there. It's like it's a bionic knee. I mean, the son of a gun is going to be stronger than it was before the injury. It's almost like, geez, even though I didn't rip anything up, can you give me some of those clips?
Tommy John.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Okay.
It's amazing. Medicine it's going to make athletes bionic.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Getting better and better and better.
It is.
The freaks will get freakier.
Can I mention a running back that we didn't? Israel Abanikanda out of Pitt. Maybe the
Say that
youngest.
again?
Abanikanda. It'd be fun for you guys to say Abanikanda down the sideline, but
It'll be Israel.
yeah, it'd be Izzy goes by actually.
Izzy, okay, it'd be Izzy.
So the Lions just took Hendon Hooker. The slide is over.
Wow.
So Hendon Hooker is going to be battling with Jared Goff there. I was wondering when he was going to come off the board as well. I know that does not affect the Bengals in any way, shape, or form, but
Talk about ACL.
Yeah, there's an injury question in itself.
Yeah.
So I want to go to a guy really quickly. The comments are saying Roschon Johnson. I want to get your thoughts right here. Roschon Johnson in the third round potentially for the Bengals?
I think they love Roschon, to be honest with you. I think he would. They look at him and say, that's a Samaje Perine replacement. Plus, he can pass protect, one of the best pass protectors in this. And it's really only Texas and Alabama and a little bit of UCLA that actually ask their running backs to make checks before they release. And so he's got experience doing that. He's got experience as a pass protector. He's not the fastest guy. We're talking a 4.6 range type, but neither was Perine. He would step in and be their third down and 2-minute offense back right away. And I think that they have value in that. Again, I said earlier, I thought it was Bijan, then Charbonnet is the best inside gap runners. Roschon, same scheme, obviously, from Texas. He's the next one.
He's the guy? Huh. Interesting.
And are there others who are after him that he doesn't slip down to 92?
Oh, yeah, that's a lot of running backs here that could probably end up going in this third round. We mentioned Abanikanda, and, I think there is – we could see, based on my board here, we got a few guys, maybe 3 or 4 guys that could probably come off from this next round.
And the way the Bengals offense is, and bear with me here, guys. I wrote these numbers down, so I wanted to throw them out here at some point.
Got to use them sometime.
Yeah, exactly. Being wide receiver centric as they are, the Cincinnati Bengals, 4 wide receivers have combined last year for 238 catches, 3,058 yards, 25 touchdowns. The tight ends combined, 4 tight ends combined for 73 catches, 556 yards, 3 touchdowns. The 4 running backs combined for 103 catches, 796 yards, 9 touchdowns. So the running back that they draft has to be able to run routes and catch the football. I mean, that's going to be They're going to have to be able to run the route tree because and obviously make themselves available as a check down person for Joe Burrow. And Joe, credit him, he got very, very patient and very, very adept at checking it down and taking what the defense gave him. He didn't force the issue. And I thought that took Joe Burrow's level of play to another level. And then all of a sudden they get impatient. Man, these checkdowns are killing us. They're catching it and they're picking up 12 yards. The defense coordinator starts changing things. Then all of a sudden you got them between the rock and the hard place. Then Joe starts hitting the ball down the field.
So I've got a few backs here that led or had the most receptions in college football that are left. And we're looking at guys like Tank Bigsby at 61 career receptions. We had Roshan Johnson at 56, Evan Hall with 93 career receptions. And if you want a fast guy that has also caught the ball a lot, Devin A-Chain with 65 career catches. I expect him to go in the third round.
Evan, any thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely like Roshan. I understand he doesn't quite have the long speed that you might want, but again, it takes a little bit of opportunity for a running back to get to that point where they can really bust it in the open field and utilize that long speed. But if you do look at his 10-yard split, though his 40 was the 40th percentile, his 10-yard split of 1.52 is actually 83rd percentile. So in that short area, he doesn't quite have that long speed, but his short area burst is still there. We talked earlier about the importance of getting yards after contact, about being elusive and forcing missed tackles. Roshan did that well in limited reps. He had 4.28 yards after contact per attempt, ranked 11th out of 200 running backs, and he had an elusive rating of 198, which ranked third among running backs. So you're talking about a guy who still finds ways to create extra yards. If he's not sitting behind Bijan Robinson, he's probably comfortably holding onto that starting role, and we're talking about him in a little bit more of a positive light. But you're still talking about a guy who's got great contact balance, is elusive, can make you miss or go through you, and has great size and length. The guy is, I think, 6 foot and 220 pounds. So what you're looking for from a size profile. And he's one of the remaining backs here who gives you that kind of complete profile, both size and what you want out of the production there. And even though he lacks home run speed, can be a little bit stiff sometimes and change of direction, I still think that would be a really optimal pick. And just to touch on Tajay Spears again, the medicals are concerning, but this is a guy much like Charbonnet, who he averaged 4.5 yards after contact, was fifth, 145.8 elusive rating was 14th. And the guy his start-stop ability is incredible. The ability to accelerate, threaten a defender, and then just stop on a dime and destroy that tackling angle. Let the momentum carry that defender. He is good at altering his strides and his pace like that to help destroy tackling angles in that way. He's got great cutting ability. His ability to bounce on that first cut is really good. And he gives effort in pass protection if it's not quite there. But like Joe and Dave referenced earlier, the will to pass block is what you're really looking for. Yep. You can worry about the technique later. So those are definitely two guys I like. And I already talked about Tank Bigsby and how much I like him. I think any of these guys would be valuable additions here.
Dan Horde said he's tired of seeing Spears rip up UC. Because I'm telling you, this guy caused the UC Bearcats more problems than just about any skill guy that he's seen in a while. And I look at the lack of breakaway speed. You know, the Bengals drafted 2 running backs. Talked about Rex Burkhead still playing.
Yep.
Right around the same time, Giovanni Bernard just now retired. They have a history of not necessarily playing 25 years with the Cincinnati Bengals, but they get 25 years in the NFL. It seems like. I mean, they're Methuselah. You know, they're around forever. So if the Bengals can find somebody like that, and it's hard to keep them, it's a different era now with salary cap and everything that goes along with it. But they've had a track record of finding roles for running backs that don't have world-class speed. You know, I mean, they can work them into their offense and get good success out of it.
2 late guys then that could help the passing game and maybe fit like the Giovanni Bernard, or at least look like him a little bit. And that's Eric Ray out of Oklahoma, and maybe even little Deuce Vaughn out of Kansas State. He's tiny, but man, he may have the biggest heart out of this entire draft.
He is, man. Yeah. Not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog.
It's a big dog in there.
So we've got a question here from TJ Deller, and this is one that a lot of fans are asking. Is defensive line off the board? And I'm going to go to Malik for this one. Is defensive line off the board because the Bengals took one in the first round, or is it still best player available?
I never say never. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily off the board, but I certainly think that you're getting to that point where there are going to be other positions that you have to, that you have a bigger need for right now at this point. And I think that it's going to be tough, especially when you see the run on tight ends. To Joe's point, the running backs. You even got to wonder at what point do they address the offensive line if they do. There's still some people out there, still some guys out there. So never say never, but I'd be hard-pressed to see them draft the defensive lineman in the third round here.
Tell you, one interior defensive lineman that I was heartbroken that went Benton. That dude, man, he can two-gap a rhino. He can two-gap an elephant. That guy's an immovable object up there, man. He is stout.
To make it worse, he went to Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
So we've got Bengals for Life is asking about Darnell Washington. Apparently, there's some medical concerns. But if Darnell is there at 92, are you guys taking him or are you guys passing up on him?
These questions are always tough when it comes to medicals. We're not privy to that information usually, and so I can only go off what we've seen on tape and what we've heard. Yeah, he's worth the pick now, but you don't know with the medicals. It's hard to answer completely because it's all a risk reward. When it finally balances itself, he'll be picked off the board. So I think if he's still there, it tells you what teams are thinking.
And Joe, to your point, during the draft cycle, guys sabotage, put information out there about a guy's medical and exaggerate it. So, maybe somebody decided to put information out there that his knees are in worse shape than they really are. Tyree Wilson, there was word out there that the foot injury that he's got may cost him the entire rookie season. Well, the Raiders said, yeah, so what? I'm picking him at number 7. So, sometimes it hurts a guy. Sometimes teams ignore it. And they trust their own medical, but don't know exactly the status. And every team, if the guy has had an injury issue, they'll bring him in for a visit. And they'll have their own doctors give him the entire medical examination, give him the thumbs up or thumbs down. Don't know how often that was done with this particular player, but that's the procedure.
We've got somebody asking about DeAndre Swift, right? Steve Levine said DeAndre Swift. Would you guys trade for DeAndre Swift if you were the Bengals? Evan, I'm going to go to you on this one because apparently he's on the trade block.
You know how I feel about giving up assets for running backs when generally we talked about the volume of quality prospects that you have in these middle tier rounds. You can find these guys that are only going to cost you less than $1 million, $2 million. You're talking about going from dedicating upwards of $15 million to the running back room to now you're dedicating 5 or less. That gives you almost a brand new starter elsewhere that you can fill a hole with. So I like the idea of staying cheap at running back. So I don't like the idea of giving up assets for another running back, particularly one who can't stay healthy. And obviously the Lions quite quickly soured on him. We're not feeling like he was in practice enough, was sitting out practices is some things I've heard before from other people. And they didn't like his work ethic, didn't feel like he had that that desire to be the best player he could be. And I think that's part of the reason that he is on the outs and that they prioritize Gibbs so high. So I would be reluctant, and I think that the Bengals have really made a point to get these captains, these high-character guys who love football and really want to do that. And I don't know that DeAndre Swift necessarily fits that profile for them.
Dave Lapham at Four Star Logistics bringing you another team to watch.
Is that Dave Lapham?
These group of brokers really know how to win. Just look at the stats they're putting up. Highest commissions in the industry, amazing perks for their employees. And I've never seen anything like their training program. No wonder their growth has been so explosive. If you're hungry and driven, this is the team to join, Peter.
Dave, who are you talking to?
Four Star Logistics, opportunity knocking.